Well, one thing, I don't know, are you team peacloths?
I'm team nothing.
Okay.
And just tissue and put it back into your pocket.
In a plastic bag?
No.
Oh my God. Okay.
Bedbugs, too much wine, and nowhere at all to pee. This is a Camino that doesn't make social media. Jasmine's walked the Camino 3 times and she's had the bedbugs. She'll tell us exactly what happened and what she'd do differently next time. And I'll tell you about a piece of hiking equipment I was initially too embarrassed to mention on camera, but now wouldn't hike without. This is Footnotes, Camino conversations pilgrims have all the time, but rarely hear about before they go.
There's hardly any toilets along the entire journey.
We need to talk about toilets.
We need it because, and I am all for bushwee. I'm very comfortable in nature. But also, a lot of the time, there's so many people around and it's so open, there is literally nowhere to go. So I honestly, so often I thought, where are people going? And also, where are like older people going that aren't comfortable with going outside? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. And so that's the same thing on the Française as most people you try and take the opportunity of a cafe or restaurant, anywhere you can to obviously go and use a proper toilet. Most of the time, at least from my experiences, you really should be trying to spend some money, or they usually say toilets are customers only. Or they might say, if not, pay 50 cents or whatever, which I think is reasonable as well.
Yeah, I think so too, 100%.
But I was amazed by how many people were happy just to kind of go out in the middle of nowhere and leave the toilet paper.
Yeah, there were some parts that were just littered with toilet paper.
Yes, it was awful. But it did surprise me that it wasn't a little bit more set up. Even in like the towns, I thought you would think there might be a few more public amenities, but that was very rare to find, right? You pretty much always had to go to a private like bar or cafe or albergue or hotel to be able to use facilities. What's your thought? What was the experience on the North?
I completely agree. Well, one thing, I don't know, are you team peacloths?
I'm team nothing.
Okay.
And just tissue and put it back into your pocket.
In a plastic bag?
No.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay, well.
You're peacloths, tell me
I'm
that.
peacloths. So I was watching all the YouTube videos that you watch. Well, I did not. The spontaneous people like Jazz do not.
No.
But I did. I was watching YouTube videos, taking notes, and they were talking about this thing called a peacloth. And there's a Circe peacloth and a Kulka peacloth. And at first I was like, I don't think I could do that. And people had them on their backpack proudly, sitting on their backpack.
On their backpack? Oh.
The peacloth, yeah, it folds up and it clips onto your backpack.
Oh.
So I was just like, oh. And so when I did a packing video for YouTube of everything I was bringing, and I showed the peacloth because I ordered it from Amazon. I showed it, and then I was too embarrassed to even say what it was called. I just wrote TBC, like to be confirmed whether I actually ever used this or not. I just held it up. I was holding everything up and going, pajamas and boots. And then I held this up and I go, TBC, quickly put it away so no one could see it. And then I was like, I just don't know that I'm like, can do this. But what I did notice was that where there was a spot, there's obviously cafes.
Okay.
We came to a cafe, make sure we go. But still, there's going to be times though that you do get caught short. But then I found that wherever you went, like behind a tree or something, you see all this toilet paper that people were leaving. And then I found out that you think toilet paper will degrade so fast because it's thin paper, but it can take months to biodegrade. And so I got my bravery and I used the peacloth. And it is complete revelation. So I became a total fan. It's actually really well designed and it's got this, some sort of silver thread in it that makes it antibacterial. And you use it and it's got the waterproof side. And then when you finish, you just clip it back up and hang it from your backpack again. And then that night, you just rinse it out while you're rinsing out your other things. And back it goes on your backpack. I'm just a massive fan.
That sounds actually really good. That's a bloody great invention, isn't it?
I would take it on other hikes, definitely. But a peacloth, all the way. So as someone who did have bed bugs on the Camino, what was it actually like?
Extremely irritating, very frustrating, itchy, uncomfortable, and is honestly, it can really throw you out. It can throw your mood out for those first few days. I don't know. It's something that you overcome. And I think a lot of the fellow pilgrims are actually can be really lovely about it because people know that it can be a thing and it almost feels like, oh no, poor you, unlucky you succumb to it. So my experience was actually, it was a really rough experience and I really wish I didn't have it. But I have some really beautiful kind of memories that came from that. And the people that helped me with different things. One lady one night was like rubbing ointment on my face and putting a cream on my back. And then she said, here, take the rest of it. I don't need it. There was another couple that said, oh, just go straight to that laundromat and put everything in and rinse it, wash it at high heat. And I didn't have coins. And they're like, here, take €6-7. And they just gave me the coins. And everyone was coming at it from the right place.
Yeah.
So it really helped to shift my perspective, if that makes sense. So whilst it was extremely uncomfortable, and honestly, for probably the next 4 or 5 weeks, I was itchy and I kind of had marks and kind of scabs on my skin. I chose in that moment not to let that bring me down and just saw it as one of my hurdles as part of my journey. Yeah.
So pilgrim, is there anything you would do differently?
I don't know there's anything I'd do differently, but I think just going in with an open mind and being aware of what to look for. Some people were a bit more diligent and they'd check the sheets and the bedding.
I've heard in the seam.
In the seam. So some people would look.
For little black
dots or black lines. So some people did that. I think also you could carry, say, insect repellent with you, or you might even want to take things. One thing I would have liked to have had more of was antihistamines. But maybe just being prepared and knowing what to look for and maybe figuring out a bit of a strategy for what you might do if it kind of transpires.
I've heard there are like ways. Do you hang your backpack up or do you put it on the bed?
Yeah, Yeah, this is why the albergues are really good with a lot of rules, which is also sometimes where they're better because they're quite strict. Always your sticks and boots are outside. And there's actually more and more places that are implementing the rule to leave your backpack outside. And they give you a tray and you only take what you need to the bedroom to the dorm so that you're not bringing in extra dirt and mud and reducing that risk. So people are becoming more and more aware of that. And also it's just like a common pilgrim rule. You do not put your backpack on the bed where you fit it.
Okay.
So being just conscious of that. Rule number one. Yeah. And just keeping it away, obviously, from the sleeping area in case it is kind of carrying insects. So there are different strategies. And look, there's different ways to basically get around it once you've been a victim of the bed bugs. And I think, honestly, most people are really kind and there to help you. And you go to the pharmacist and they're like, yeah, that's probably bed bugs. And you're like, is there a lot this season? They're like, yeah, there's quite a lot. So I think maybe I felt like in my time, it might have been like 1 in 20 or 1 in 30 people.
Okay.
And then some people have minor experiences and some worse. But I also would say it's not something to go in and be fearful of.
And so what would you say to someone who was thinking about doing a Camino, but was like, bed bugs were really top of mind? Because I've heard of people and there was someone in a forum who said that concern about bed bugs with the pilgrimage.
Okay.
What would you say to someone who was like really worried or even thinking about not doing a Camino?
See, I can't quite resonate with that because even though I've had that experience, it feels so minor in the scheme of things.
Okay.
So I personally would just be saying, don't worry about it and focus more on all the beautiful things that can come about. And I guess be more optimistic about what your experience is going to look like. You walk away with a lot of scars, battle wounds and memories from your Camino, but the ones that I walk away with aren't necessarily the literal scars of my bed bugs. It's the beautiful memories and the moments. And I think that for me carries a lot more weight. So I'd say maybe just assess how that weighs up for you personally. You might prefer a very comfortable holiday in Ibiza at a resort.
That's true.
One thing that surprised me about the Camino in general, but specifically the Camino Frances, was how social it is. It's so social and there's actually a lot of drinking.
And is that albergue life?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I also found it was quite typical along the route. Like even people at lunchtime, could be very common seeing people.
Daytime.
Oh yeah, people be having beers or a wine. I tended to steer away from that because then I just wanted a siesta.
Was that like when you got somewhere, or was that when you still had
wait? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But that's why I was not so good at that. I preferred to wait, and then when I'd arrive somewhere, very often you just see people outside once they've showered or. Even once they arrive, the first thing they do is just put their back down and they just want to have a cold beer or, I don't know, a glass of wine or something and a little snack just to stop and just have a little bit of a rest from the day. There's almost like a little bit of a treat or reward as well. Before then they have to go and start making your bed or do your laundry or something. but I found there was actually a lot of drinking, but it was less of a party scene, more of just really community and coming together with people and having conversations. So as many times I'd arrive into a town and there'd just be like a big group in a courtyard, people of all ages and backgrounds, and you might recognize a few faces and there might be a lot of new, and they're like, hey, come join us for a beer. And you'd be like, okay, sure, why not?
Was that the time you got to know people and talk
Yes,
to people?
definitely. So for me personally, when I walked during the day, I like to walk by myself. That was my time to myself. And then my social time was basically arriving into the towns. For me, there was a big part of the albergue life was sharing the communal meals, and there was always wine there. So it felt like I was drinking every single night, and it was coming from the right place, and it felt more like sharing food and wine than something to really drink to become drunk.
Well,
They do it so well.
When they are out with their families and friends, they're often having, the wine is cheap,
Yes.
but it's also really good quality.
Well,
So they just enjoy it as part of a
Yeah.
beautiful meal.
There were many people I met that weren't even drinkers and ended up converting and having drinks because they wanted to be a part of
They
it.
converted on the Camino, but not in the religion.
Toilets, bed bugs, and more wine than expected. But somehow we do it all again. What surprised you the most? Follow along for the next episode where we're exploring what it means to be a pilgrim, the pilgrim hierarchy, and whether you really have to suffer.